What's going on? It is A to Z Sports Prime Time here on a Tuesday night. It is Tuesday, October 29th, and the Tennessee Titans are 1-6 after a blowout loss, an egregious blowout loss, embarrassing fashion in which the Titans lost to the Detroit Lions. I believe the score was 52-14. I keep getting it mixed up because it was so bad. Yeah, 52-14. I just checked back on my box score. Special teams were a problem. The offense seemed to move the ball well and yet still somehow was a problem. The defense got absolutely sliced through. And so while the Titans defense is still number one in the NFL, quotation marks, allegedly in yards allowed, they are towards the bottom of the league in points allowed. Because this team just happens to give everybody they play the shortest field possible and really can't stop much of anything. And yet somehow with the Titans at 1-6, this team, I'm going to talk about a couple ways in which I think they won in Detroit. Why the blowout loss in Detroit was a good thing for the Titans in more ways than one. Then I'm going to talk Will Levis. I'm going to talk patience within the organization. Trying to figure out whether or not the Titans are full of crap like other teams around the NFL or whether they mean what they say. Got a loaded show here for you. Before we get into all of it, make sure you share the show and leave a like on the show. So hit the thumbs up whether you're watching on YouTube or Facebook. Share the show. If you're watching on Facebook, hit the bottom right corner share button. Get it out on the timeline. If you're watching on YouTube, take the YouTube link. Send it out to your friends. Send them a text. Retweet, repost on ATOZ Sports on Twitter. That's the best way to support before we get into it. And let's do it officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time in the Zen Sports Studios tonight. I'm not Buck Rising, but I am Sam Phelan, hosting on Tuesday nights with you now throughout the rest of the 2024 NFL season. And I'm presented to you, as always, by Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet, or online at tworiversford.com for more information. Zen Sports, that's your place to bet. If you want to back the Titans in Week 9 against the Patriots, maybe the last time all year that the Titans could be favored in a game. Bert, if you have the line, go ahead and send that line to me as I try and figure out if the Titans are favored in a game. Dare I say it? Zen Sports will be at that game. Titans and Patriots for the Titans tailgate party on Sunday. If you're interested in joining, contact Zen Sports customer support for more information and use the promo code ATOZTN in the Zen Sports app. As Bert's telling me, it is Titans +3, so not favored in that game. The NFL knows by now that this Titans team, an absolute wreck. One of the, Michael says it's Titans -3. Yes, and now Bert has corrected. It is -3. So the Titans are favored in a game against the New England Patriots. Might be the last one all year. If you want to back them, Zen Sports, ATOZTN. And if you're in need of a new workout program, True Math Fitness is the place for you. No workout is ever recycled or repeated at True Math Fitness. Go to truemathfitness.com for more information. They're located in the Gulch, and no workout program ever repeated. All right, let's get into this game against the Detroit Lions. A blowout loss, obviously, as we've got the wrong guy up here. There we go. There we go. We're back. I looked up and I said, I don't recognize any of that stuff that we're about to talk about. Here we go. Wins from the loss, because the Titans got blown out. And yet somehow I think there are some positive takeaways from the game. Now, the most obvious one of all of them is right here. The projected 2025 NFL draft order is after week 8, and you see your Tennessee Titans right up there at 1-6. But at number 2 in the draft position, right behind the Carolina Panthers, they jumped teams like the Cleveland Browns. They jumped teams like the Raiders. I guess the Raiders lost, actually. Who else won last week? New England won last week. The Browns won last week. Those are two teams that the Titans passed in the draft order. And if you look at strength of schedule, They are right there with Carolina. So if they lose to New England, I mean, there is a real possibility that the Titans are looking at a top 3 pick. Looking at this schedule, Chargers, that team seems to have a little bit of positive momentum. The Vikings are going the wrong way, and yet this is a get-right game for them coming to play the Titans. Texans are tough. Commanders are very tough. The Bengals are looking a lot better. This schedule, it is rough for the Titans, and you're already at the top. So if there was going to be something to get you excited about the rest of the way, I think Titans fans everywhere are starting to look at that draft board, look at the quarterbacks available in the 2025 NFL draft, and starting to think about what Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, or take your pick of the litter, might look in a Titans uniform. I think that's a real possibility at this point. I think we are headed towards the Titans drafting a quarterback at the front end of the 2025 NFL draft. And that alone is exciting. That alone is good news. The worst case scenario for the Titans is to end up with everything being bad, everything being horrendous, and not being in a position to draft a quarterback. So if there is a way that the Titans won by getting blown out by the Detroit Lions, it is now abundantly clear that they're one of the worst teams in the league, and they're positioned very well for a great draft pick. And I already see, Rashid gives some eyeballs. We got Sanders or Ward season. Michael wants to know who owns the tiebreaker. It's really too early to tell. There is no head-to-head between the Titans and Panthers this year, and they're not in the same conference. So it would end up being strength of schedule. So as of right now, Carolina would have the tiebreaker, but of course that is volatile game over game. A more difficult strength of schedule means a worse draft pick because they are trying to give the draft pick, the better pick goes to the worst team. Because they're trying to give the pick to the worst team, the worst strength of schedule is the team that goes ahead and gets it. Major Keys is coming in. He's already asking big picture questions. He wants to know about the future of Will Levis. Well, you stay patient, Major Keys. It's right here. Patience is key. We're going to talk about Will Levis on what the Titans are planning on doing with their quarterback situation later on in the show. But first, I want to get to some other wins. I mentioned how the Titans got blown out, how it's now abundantly clear that they are one of the worst teams in the NFL. I think another way the Titans won, or at least Titans fans won in the loss to Detroit, there's no more hiding. There's no more pretending. The Titans have been acting like, we're much better than our 1-5 record would suggest. We're much better than our 1-4 record would suggest. That blowout loss to Detroit showed just how far away the Titans are from the best teams in the NFL. That the Lions are a legitimate Super Bowl contender. And I know that's a tough matchup for a non-contender to go up against the Super Bowl contender, but it really does show you the disparity. How easy things looked for the Detroit Lions on Sunday shows that this Titans team is broken. It's why I have even more problems with Rand Carthon's interview that he did after the game with Nick Suss of the Tennessean, where Rand talked about, well, you know what? Hey, the ball didn't bounce our way. That's what Rand Carthon said after a 1-6 record. The ball didn't bounce our way. But I think it's apparent to everybody now what this football team is. One of the goals of 2024 was to get some answers. I think you're starting to get answers, not the answers you wanted, not the answers we were all hoping for, but you're starting to get some answers about just how much more work needs to be done before the Titans are going to be back contending. And I think it's lighting a fire under some people within the organization, namely the owner, who does not like the embarrassment that has been this season. That's another win for the fan base, is that they've gotten answers. We cannot hide anymore. Of course, you see the man on the graphic right there. Arden Key, I think, is another win for this team. One of the bright spots of that game in Detroit. Arden Key has 2 sacks, 3 quarterback hits. He had a sack on the very first play of the game. He had a strip sack in that first quarter on like the 3rd possession of the game. He had a quarterback hit when Jeffrey Simmons got a strip sack in the third quarter. He set a career high with 6 tackles. I know that might not seem like a lot, but it's Arden Key's career high. He said he made adjustments on how he was rushing the passer before that game against the Lions, and his 1 sack in Buffalo turned into 2 sacks against the Lions. He's playing his best football of the season, and this is impactful. Why? Because the NFL trade deadline is a week away, and I think Arden Key has proven he has value to a contending team. His base salary is set to increase to $6.5 million in 2025. It is not guaranteed money. To me, Key feels like somebody who is likely to be cut by the Titans one way or another as a cap casualty in the offseason. And because he's a little bit expendable, I throw him in the tier with a DeAndre Hopkins. I throw him in the tier with a Quandre Diggs or an Ernest Jones, the guys that I think are on the trade market or have been traded because they're expiring deals. And as Bork says, he is playing like a man who wants out of Nashville. Absolutely. He's playing like a guy who needs to get traded. It was the joke that was made in the press box. Literally, the second Arden Key got the sack on the first play of the game, we all looked at each other and said, oh, somebody wants out of town. Somebody wants to be traded, putting on a show for the Detroit Lions. So I think that is a positive. The fact that there actually is value around Arden Key now. If you would have asked me 2 weeks ago what the Titans were getting for Arden Key, I would have said, I don't know if they can get anything for him because he simply hasn't been productive. But if you need a rotational edge, if you need some help rushing the passer, Arden Key's making a good case for himself. He's got another chance against the Patriots to do it this week. And if, he has another good game, you're looking at a really good stretch of football for Arden Key. People are saying a 4th or a 5th rounder from Key. That might be too much. I just don't know if somebody's given up a 4th or even a 5th for him. Bork says, though, you could get like a 6th from a team like the Ravens, and it's a team that has the Panthers 6th rounder. I like that. I don't think that's out of the question that you could get a 6th round pick for Arden Key, and depending on where it's at, it could end up being a pick of value. So for an organization that needs to assemble all the draft capital possible, that is really trying to hit the reset button, that is really trying to get rid of expiring deals and see just how much impactful, picks they can get back. That was a win from the Lions game. Arden Key having 2 sacks and looking the best that he has in a Titans uniform so far. I'm going to ask all of you, because I've got one more that I have in the holster here that I think is the biggest way the Titans won. Maybe it's something I've mentioned. Maybe it's something I haven't mentioned yet. But I will ask all of you, what was the biggest way the Titans won in the blowout loss to the Lions? Try and get creative here. What was the biggest way the Titans won in a blowout loss to the Lions? And while you guys are letting me know your thoughts, I'm going to let you know my thoughts about somebody who always wins, and that is Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. Everywhere I go, I see Ford Broncos all over the road, all different types, soft tops, hard tops, big bend, heritage style with white tops, black diamonds, Raptors, and even the smaller Bronco Sports. There's so many options, color combinations, and different packages, and that's why the Two Rivers Ford team is inviting you to get to know the Ford Bronco. It's an open invitation. You don't even need to be in the market for a vehicle to get more info. Two Rivers Ford is a team of Bronco experts on hand to give you info about the Bronco. They don't work on commission. It's a sales team not working on commission. They're there to educate you, answer questions, and introduce you to a really cool vehicle that you probably have seen all over and have many questions about. There's a reason that people in Middle Tennessee love doing business with Two Rivers Ford and why they're the South's most trusted Ford dealer. So go see them in Mount Juliet, just 7 miles east of the airport. Two Rivers Ford is your Ford Bronco headquarters. All right, let's go to the chat. Let's see, how did the Titans win the most in their big loss to the Detroit Lions, as counterintuitive as that might sound? We've got first quarter chemistry from Paul. They're still competing for a top 2 pick. Nobody got majorly injured. Karen goes with the tank as well and is looking at that higher draft pick. We got QB protection. We got, you guys all stumped, just looking for one silver lining, because I do think there were some positives in a game that was a disaster. but maybe long-term positives. And Esco is on mine. Rudolph to Calvin Ridley. And mainly just Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley had over 140 yards. Specifically, let me pull up his numbers. 10 catches, 143 yards. It was a top 5 performance of Calvin Ridley's entire NFL career. And that matters to me. That's not insignificant to me, especially because a lot of that was in the first quarter when the Titans were still playing in a competitive game. As Justin says, the Calvin Ridley upside is legit, not just for the rest of this year, because the rest of this year is legitimately a wash, but for the future. What does it do to have Calvin Ridley be successful? Well, number one, it proves that Calvin Ridley can still be a wide receiver 1. Calvin Ridley can still be dominant, 10 for 143. And quite honestly, it didn't look all that difficult. It really did not look like the Titans were pressing to get Calvin Ridley the ball. I know he had 15 targets, but the dude was open. He was just getting open. He looked like the $92 million player that you paid him to be. That's important because I got a news flash. Calvin Ridley's not going anywhere. He's not getting traded. The Titans are pot committed. He's going to be here for the rest of this year. He's going to be here next year. And so him looking like this version of himself and not the ghost of Calvin Ridley we've seen for the last 7 weeks is vital. And it's even more vital that he continues doing it for the rest of the season. There is long-term value here for whoever the quarterback in 2025 is. Because whether it's Will Levis again, whether it's a free agent quarterback that we're gonna talk about later, whether it's a guy that we're gonna draft at the top of the draft, like we just mentioned, in Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward, or take your pick. Whoever is your Titans quarterback in week 1 of 2025, having a guy like Calvin Ridley be able to get open for them, massive, massive victory for the Titans. And you know, one thing to, I guess, take some pride in after a bad loss. It also shows Brian Callahan is capable of scheming him open, that Brian Callahan is getting more comfortable figuring out how to use Calvin Ridley. This shows that maybe the Titans actually did see a scheme fit here, knew how to analyze a player in pro scouting that was becoming a free agent, and, you know, schemed him up appropriately to have a big impact. I'd like to see it more than 1 week. I'd like to see it more than we even did in weeks past, but this was a big positive for what the future of Brian Callahan and Calvin Ridley, what the future holds for them. There were flashes of the offense that we were promised. Explosive passing for the first time all year. I've been talking about explosive passing being key for this team, and I think it really showed in that first half against Detroit. How much more effective the Titans were at moving the football when they were able to create some explosive passes. And then last but not least, you keep Calvin Ridley happy, which I don't think is irrelevant. I think, you know, when you pay a guy $92 million, you either want him to have very high trade value because he's playing really well and he, you know, you don't have incentive to move him, or you want him to be happy playing really well on a contending team. An upset Calvin Ridley does nothing for the Titans except give them less power, less control, and make their football team worse. So keeping him happy for the remainder of the year. It's hard to be happy when you're 1-6. It's a lot easier when you're getting 15 targets a game, and I'm hoping to see the Titans do that a little bit more. That's my answer. I know there's not a ton of wins, but there were some positives that, you know, could help the organization long-term from a blowout loss. I don't feel like I need to sit here and rave about the loss to you. I really don't. I feel like we know what's going on. I feel like we've talked enough about our frustrations, about the fact that Colt Anderson needs to be fired, about all of Brian Callahan's deficiencies as a head coach, about the fact that the roster is not good and Rand Carthon is seriously in question in my eyes right now. There will be plenty of time to discuss all of that. But ahead of the trade deadline, some good stuff did happen as well. Let's get into the quarterback situation. We've got some questions about whether Will Levis is the guy in the chat. We talked about potentially, a draft pick at quarterback this year. Maybe it's a free agent. I'm going to play some stuff from Brian Callahan. We're going to ask some questions and figure out just what the Titans are thinking about Will Levis. Before I do it, I'm going to tell you about the official realtor of the Nashville Predators. That is Gary Ashton, the official realtor of the Nashville Preds. Don't sell without the intel. Get your dream address without the stress. The intel that you need to succeed with the official realtor of the Nashville Predators at GaryAshton.com. Gary Ashton, that's our guy. GaryAshton.com. You see it there at the bottom of your screen. Okay, let's get to Brian Callahan. Let's get to what he has talked about with Will Levis. Let's get to the narrative around the league in general, because one thing, current events-wise, that happened in the NFL today, the Indianapolis Colts benched Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson to the bench, Joe Flacco in. It's a really, really interesting situation there in Indy, because Richardson, unlike Will Levis, was a first-round pick, was drafted with the 4th overall pick in the draft. The investment in him was heavy. And unlike the Tennessee Titans, the Indianapolis Colts are actually competing for a playoff spot. I'm going to look right now. If the season ended today, let's see where the Colts are in the playoff race. They are the number 8 seed, just outside at 4-4, and the Chargers are at 4-3. So the Colts are very much still in this thing. And they're very much a better team with Joe Flacco. So this is the question. Do you remain patient with your young quarterback, or do you put in the veteran to, make a move to try and win some games? It was a question I thought the Titans might be pressed with had they won some more games. The Mason Rudolph versus Will Levis thing at 1-6 now, it feels a little bit easier. But the options at quarterback are going to be there for you in the offseason. Sam Darnold, I saw mentioned in the chat. Justin Fields, I see mentioned in the chat. Jameis Winston, a guy who just won a game for the Cleveland Browns, who's looking pretty good as a starter. There are these bridge starters out there that you could potentially make a move on. There's Cam Ward. There's Shedeur Sanders. There's Jalen Milroe. I don't know what else is going to change in the quarterback market by the end of the year, but we know that guys emerge. There's a possibility the Titans are in a position to draft one of those guys. And so with options on options on options, I ask you the question, do you buy or sell the fact that the Titans organization is actually remaining patient with Will Levis? Because according to Brian Callahan, Will Levis is still the starter, and they're still remaining patient. Let's go to the head coach.
At the start of another week, you have some optimism. Will's back this Sunday.
Yeah, we'll see where he's at. I'm optimistic he's in a better place after some rest. He's probably going to take another day or two of rest, and then we'll see what he looks like Wednesday. So I can't comment with any certainty what will be the case, but I'm hopeful that he's closer to feeling like 100% or as close to that as he can, so he can go out there and play.
How would you classify the turnovers yesterday? And I guess the other way to ask it is early in the season there were some.
So the plan is still for Will Levis to play as long as he's healthy. That seems to be the indication from Brian Callahan that he remains the starter, that it is not a Mason Rudolph team. They are not doing, despite the fact that Mason Rudolph is creating some more explosive passing than Levis has, that they are sticking with Will. Brian Callahan has talked a lot about trying to remain patient, and here he is talking about the idea of remaining patient with Levis and the understanding the Titans organization has, from him to Rand Carthon to Amy Adams-Strunk, about being patient at quarterback.
The organization's stance on Will and just taking the patient approach.
Yes.
Did you and Rand have an understanding with Amy before the season that you guys were going to stick with him through thick and thin this year? And what does that understanding look like now when you talk to her at this point in the season?
Yeah, it's the same. Everything about what we were hoping to get out of the season was a really solid and concrete evaluation of Will as a starting quarterback. the injury process, we haven't played well enough anywhere around him. He certainly hasn't played up to what I think he's capable of playing. And so we're not in a great spot record-wise. And the injury doesn't help. And hopefully that the minute he's back healthy, the intent is for him to continue to play. And hopefully that's sooner rather than later, because I'd like to continue to have him playing football. But I'm not going to let him go out there if he's not where he needs to be to go perform. And so, again, hopefully maybe this week, maybe next week, but sooner than later, he'll be back playing.
That she's comfortable with that patience. She's willing to trust you all to make that decision when it comes.
Everything that she's given, everything that Miss Amy's given to Ran and I is trust and support, and to do the job that we think needs to get done. And she's been fantastic, and every conversation we've had is we're all on the same page, and that's been a really positive thing, I think, all the way around for everybody.
So Amy Adams-Strunk on the same page with Rand Carthon and Brian Callahan, remaining patient with Will Levis. Callahan asserts that the goal was to get a solid evaluation of Will Levis as the starter, that he remains the starter, that he will continue to remain the starter when he is healthy and able to play. It feels like this evaluation is still going on, or at least that's what we're being told, which is why I ask the question: do you buy or sell the fact that the Titans organization is actually remaining patient with Will Levis? Other teams around the NFL are not. The Colts had to draw a line in the sand somewhere. The Panthers drew a line with Bryce Young earlier this year. But what are the Titans doing as they continue to say that Levis is their guy? I scroll up to the chat. Let's see what you guys are saying. Don is buying the fact that they're patient with Levis. Jack is saying he still believes in Levis, and maybe he's being patient with Levis himself. Bork is selling. Browning is selling. So is Trey. So is Rashid. Esco says if they are, maybe they're only patient for like 2 more games if he doesn't improve. Allison says that they're done, or at least she hopes that they're done. Michael says he's selling because Mason Rudolph looks like he understands the offense a little bit better. We got a sell from Karen. We've got a buy from Matt, who says starting Levis is win-win. If Levis is good, it's future. If Levis is bad, it's a better draft pick. Think there is absolutely something to that, especially when you're the Titans and you're not in the position of the Indianapolis Colts that maybe feel some pressure to win some games. The Titans are kind of playing with house money right now. Let's see what else we got. Yes, Darren says too bad the fans were done, which I do think is the truth. Either way, Justin reiterates that, says fans are fed up. Like I said, says buying. Benji is buying after hearing what the head coach had to say. So where am I at? It's tough. I, though, am going to say I'm going to sell. I don't believe the Titans are actually patient with Will Levis. I think Anthony is right here. I think they've already made up their mind. They've already decided. Levis is playing because Mason Rudolph isn't better enough to give them reason to go with Mason Rudolph. I think Levis, for optics, for development's sake, because maybe he's a valuable backup next year, they want him to play football. But I think if you ask Brian Callahan or Rand Carthon, I think they've already made up their mind on Will Levis as the future of this team. I think that's been apparent with their game plans for him. I think that's been apparent in the way that they've talked about him. So whether it's Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, or freaking Justin Fields, as the chat said, I think the Titans are very much preparing themselves to have a new quarterback in 2025. The rest of this is just window dressing. At least that's my take on it. I guess we'll see. And who knows how this changes. I do think there's a legitimate possibility that Will Levis ends up playing better football once he's healthy. We'll see if he goes against the New England Patriots, but what a position. Is there a worse position in the world? Like a worst case scenario for the Titans? Again, this is going to sound counterintuitive, but is there anything worse than if like Will Levis lights it up for like the back 8 weeks of the season? If for the final 8 games, Will Levis looks really solid, what do you do then? Right? Like, I guess you kind of have to. Do you roll with them? Does it depend where your draft position is? I agree with Darren. That might be bad long term if you don't have faith that he's actually going to be the guy. That is a weird. It's weird to think that we'd be in 2024 saying that Will Levis looking bad, or sorry, Will Levis looking good is the worst case scenario. But there's a real chance. Like, I don't know. What if the Titans finish 5-12? Right? That would have them going 4-6 the rest of the way. 5-12, or even 4-13. Let's look at the schedule again. Let's say they beat the Patriots. Let's say they split with the Jags. Maybe you steal one somewhere else in here, pull an upset. Maybe you finish 4-13. Maybe Will Levis actually looks pretty good. The offense comes around a little bit. What the heck do you do then? There's a lot of options, but I think it would be it would put the Titans in a very difficult scenario, a difficult position, precarious for sure. Let's go ahead. Let's get to Gone Viral because I got some good stuff and it's right on brand with some of the quarterback stuff we're talking about. Before we do it, I'm going to talk about TrueMav Fitness. TrueMav Fitness in the Gulch. Go to TrueMavFitness.com for your first workout free as a Middle Tennessee resident. No workouts ever recycled or repeated at TrueMav. So for personal training, group fitness classes, and memberships that also offer an open gym, go to TrueMavFitness.com in the Gulch for more information. Check out TrueMav. All right, Bert, are you with me? Are you ready to go viral here?
What you got for me, Sam?
All right, I got two things for you. You want to start hype or you want to start funny?
Let's start hype. Let's start hype.
Let's start hype. Somebody needs a raise out in Knoxville because with Halloween coming up, the Tennessee Volunteers dropped one of the coolest. And hey, I am a known Tennessee heel. I like to poke fun at the University of Tennessee, specifically the football program. This had me wanting to run through a brick wall and start singing Rocky Top. Here's what the Vols put out on TikTok today. Absolutely incredible.
Good for them. They've got a great social media team. The guy that worked on that talked about being a huge Venom fan and it being a pleasure to put together. And you can tell when somebody likes what they're doing, it turns out like that. You can tell that they're really having fun with what they're doing.
Yeah, going full Venom vibes. And I mean, that was just, it was sick. Yeah, you cannot poke a hole in that. You can be a big Tennessee fan. You can be the biggest Vols hater in the world. The Venom theme, the execution on it. Whatever player that I couldn't see the back of the jersey, but whichever
Thornhill.
Okay, yeah. I mean, that's like the easiest. Yes, I would love to do that. This is the coolest thing ever type of video for him. So shout out to Tennessee, man. That got me hype. I wish every team had a social media team putting out content like that because that'll work 10 times out of 10. All right, let's laugh a little bit because I mentioned a couple of quarterbacks earlier that oh, and I think I actually lost one of my videos here. Let me try and get one of my videos back.
Is it the no decal? Is there?
No, there's one more. I'm uploading it right now. So it's coming in. But I mentioned a couple of quarterbacks earlier. One of the guys that I mentioned was Jameis Winston, and Jameis Winston won a football game, looked awesome for the Cleveland Browns. And made everybody laugh in the process. Here's one of two very funny moments from Jameis.
Hey, man, opportunities come once in a lifetime. And with those opportunities, we have to make the most of it. Every one of us have an individual responsibility to go out there and fight for each other. Represent the names on your back, represents the names that's on your helmet. Well, we don't got no decal. So represent the Browns, all right? One play at a time, all right? Together. All right, here we go. 7, 1, 3, 1, 2, 3, bam! Let's get it.
Well, we ain't got no decal. Just the classic Jameis Winston hype up speech. The man is just how do you not love Jameis? Jesse says, I like Jameis. Everybody's gotta love Jameis. Bert, would you support Jameis Winston as the Titans quarterback in 2025?
Yeah, because even if they suck, it would be a lot of fun. He would still give you a lot of quotes. He would still give you plenty of stuff to tune in about. And it's crazy that the Browns in, I think it was like 19 games of Deshaun Watson, did not have a 300-yard passing game. Did not score over 20 points. And then one game with Jameis blows all that up. Now, forget the 3 dropped interceptions. I don't give a shit about that.
Don't care.
Jameis was awesome. I don't care.
It was Jameis threw too good of a ball that the DBs just couldn't catch it.
There you go.
But yeah, we don't got no decal. And then this pregame and postgame, this is just classic Jameis.
You're looking really focused right now. You told us this week that everyone inside this building believes that this is the time you guys can turn it around. What's been the message?
Unwavering faith, ultimate belief, depending on the Lord. That's all we got.
You told me no nerves, just excitement and butterflies. Still feel that way?
Unwavering faith, ultimate belief, dependence on the Lord.
The message is clear, guys. Thank you, Jameis. Jameis Winston making your first start since 2022. The word you used before the game was unwavering. How do you describe this victory?
Unwavering faith, ultimate belief, depending on the Lord, and depending on the Lord should have been first.
Unwavering faith, ultimate belief. For Jameis, this is like he's pulling a Kamala Harris here. Kamala's it's the unburdened by what has been, or what like that. That's what that was given from Jameis there. Unburdened by what has been was Jameis saying ultimate belief, unwavering faith.
I just picture him like at like a Jiffy Lube or something, and they're like, "Yeah, it's gonna be 98.55, unwavering belief."
Yeah, right.
Dependence on the Lord. He's like, "Is that cash or card?" I need to get you out of line, J-Mo.
Is that cash or card? He just walks out being like, "Depend on the Lord." Dependence on the God. And I feel like the guy would just be like, "Oh, yeah, that makes sense. That's fine. Yeah,
I'll put that on your tab, J-Mo."
The thing is, you said the Titans. If Jameis was the Titans quarterback, we'd be getting amazing quotes. Would we? Because we would also get games like this where you're trying to get, hey, Jameis, your first start in 4 years. How you feeling? Jameis, that was an incredible game. And he says the same 6 words the whole time. But I'm not sure you'd get great quotes, but as somebody says in the chat, you'd get great T-shirts. The merch I can already see it now. When this Browns team goes on a run, mark my words here, Bert, the unwavering faith Cleveland Browns shirts are going to be a bestseller. Like, the merch line for anybody who has Jameis Winston on their favorite football team is top tier.
I feel like if Jameis was on a shitty team, then he would be giving us quotes like Jelly Roll at post-game press conference.
Yeah, I see that.
He would be like, "There's somebody out there with a size 9 foot in a size 4 shoe. Somebody out there with no lips praying for a straw. That day will come, Tennessee Titans fans." Like, he would give us good quotes like that.
I could see that. Yeah. I am, you know what? I'm rooting for the quarterback to, I think maybe worst take of the day was our guy Buck Rising on Twitter today saying he has no interest in seeing the Tennessee Titans draft a quarterback at the top of the draft. I don't know why. I don't really.
Good thing it doesn't.
Yeah. I, for one, would love to see the Titans draft a quarterback at the top of the draft to have something interesting to watch every Sunday. But if it's not going to be a Cam Ward or a Shedeur Sanders or, one of those flashy new young rookie quarterbacks, I think the next best option is Jameis Winston in two-tone blue. So,
well, listen, Buck would bitch if they drafted a tackle. Buck would bitch if they drafted a quarterback. The only thing that would make Buck happy is if Buck, I don't know, got to cover the Chiefs or something. I don't know.
Buck gets traded to the Chiefs, and even then he'd be complaining about some press box food and how Taylor Swift is way too prominent in the.
Why is no one talking about the lack of special teams depth on this team?
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes the Scrooges are just going to Scrooge. The cynical people, they don't know what they're going to do if they don't have something to be angry about. So he also would probably go to, as Bork says, he would probably go to the Chiefs and they'd go on a losing streak.
Oh God, that would be great. I would love. You know how many tweets, how many parades he would throw himself? Be like, so nice to finally cover a good football team, and then they suck.
And then Mahomes gets hurt, and it's who's their backup right now? It's Carson Wentz.
There you go. Yep.
So then he has to cover a Carson Wentz football team, and that would be hilarious. So his girlfriend would probably be very excited for him to get like videos of Taylor Swift walking into the stadium, and Buck would hate every second of it. So
he would say that he hated it, but he would be in position to get every single one of those videos.
Yeah. You're right. If that's
I can't believe I have to do this sort of thing. Oh, Taylor, I hate doing this stuff, Taylor. I've got to do it for my fans. Anyway,
if there was ever something that summarized Buck Rising more, it is pretending to hate something that we all know he secretly loves, and he's very happy about, but he just likes to say, "This sucks."
Yeah. Dude, I can hear it in his voice. This sucks. God, talking about it makes me want to cuss.
Give me a break.
Yeah.
Buddy, give me a break.
God.
Exactly. All right. Well, hey, that's all we got for you Tuesday. That guy Buck Rising, he'll be back tomorrow night as we navigate through this 2024 season one night at a time, folks. Thanks for tuning in, and till next time, we'll see you later.
Go home. Go home. Go home.